So this awakeness is very ordinary. We elevate it, we mythologize it, we make it something special. But it's actually the most natural state there is. It's totally here, it's totally accessible. It's not over there, it's not someplace else. It's not something you have to wait for. It's not something you have to achieve or find. It's here. It's always here. But the mind performs acrobatics to prevent us from seeing this. So it's not that we have to find anything other than what's already here. It's that we have to see that performance and stop believing it. Stop giving our devotion to it. Stop giving our allegiance to it. And that's why it seems so difficult to recognize this awakeness as an abiding state, as the abiding reality. Because our whole conditioning, our whole, right down to our ancient survival mechanism, is about giving our allegiance to the acrobatics of the mind that says things shouldn't be, life shouldn't be the way it is. This moment, this feeling, this experience, this thought shouldn't be the way it is. And so to unstick ourselves from that seems like a huge effort. And we think it requires some kind of skill or some kind of knowledge about how to do it, or some kind of grace because you've been deemed worthy and somehow. But actually, it's just a letting go. It's just a surrender. Into this moment, and this moment, and this moment, and this moment. It's about meeting each moment fully, wholeheartedly, but without getting lost in it. Very often when we speak about meeting this moment fully, there's an idea that that means just feeling everything. Feeling our emotions, feeling the energies that run through our human experience. But it's actually much more than that. It's not just about feeling. It's about feeling, which means not avoiding anything, not avoiding any aspect of your human experience. So it's about feeling, but it's about the awareness or the knowingness within that experience of who you really are. Knowing and seeing that the experience itself, the fact that you are experiencing, is a constant. The fact that you are aware of experiencing is a constant. Everything else changes. All feelings, all emotions, all energies, all experiences. So to fully feel, to fully give yourself to whatever appears in your experience, but not to regress to some pre-conscious state of primordial oneness. But to be fully awake in that. To be fully awake is to see that awareness is always here. Awareness is the only constant. Awareness is the only reality. And when that's fully seen, then nothing can be feared. It may be uncomfortable. It may not be to your liking. But there's nothing that needs to be excluded or avoided or denied or bypassed. Because everything appears within that awareness. When you fully open to everything, it's like falling in love with every moment. Falling in love with every moment doesn't necessarily mean you like it. Haven't you had the experience of falling in love, but you actually don't really like the other person? You might think you like them for a while, then you realize you don't really like them. But you still experience falling in love, at least for a short while. Hopefully a little longer. Yeah? Falling in love with the moment, falling in love with whatever appears, doesn't mean that you own it, doesn't mean that you like it, doesn't mean that you want to hold on to it. It just means you fall into it. You fall into it and the seeking stops. The seeking for anything else other than this experience stops. In that stopping of the seeking mechanism, you are free. You are free of the mental acrobatics. You are free of trying to manipulate or control reality. You are open. It's like becoming a naked lover of what is. You are naked. There are no more defenses. There is no more armoring. There is no more self-protection or hiding. That's why it's ordinary. It's just an open nakedness. Like babies are naked. Like puppies are naked. Like kittens are naked. Like these flowers are naked. There's no defense structure. There's no scaffolding to protect a sense of me and my wants and my desires and my needs and my attempts to control life, to conform to how I think it should be, so that I feel good, so that I feel loved, so that I feel happy, so that I feel spiritual, so that I feel peaceful, and so on and so on. What you feel is irrelevant. What you feel is irrelevant to awakeness. Feel it, but don't be it. Feel it, but do not confuse yourself for it. Or do not confuse yourself in it. I chopped these flowers up to put them in the glass of water. But the essence of flower is still as open, still as naked, still as beautiful. There was no complaint. There was no retraction. And I know that plants have been shown to have a sensitivity to being hurt. If you pull a leaf or cut a stem, there is a little electromagnetic response, I think, as far as I understand. So they feel it. It's not that they don't feel. But nothing changes. The fragrance is still here. But we tend to withdraw and close down and create a whole layering of stories about how we're not good enough or not worthy. And so on. How we have to try harder, or change ourselves, or fix ourselves, or improve ourselves, or change or fix or improve life. And there's nothing wrong with personal growth. There's nothing wrong with striving to be the best we can as a human being. All of that can happen inside awakeness. But you do not confuse yourself for that. There is always a backdrop that awareness is the only constant. When awareness becomes aware of itself, there is awakeness. When awareness becomes aware of itself as the backdrop of your life, as a constant. Now there's two ways to that, if you like, two directions, two approaches. on the seeker's path. One is to point to that awareness. To give our attention to that awareness. So that we come to see that that is the only constant. That we inquire into what is always here. That we ask the question, who am I? And the other way is to forget all that and to simply open and give yourself to this and this and this and this and this. And within this giving, to always see with honesty in yourself what maras come in to prevent you from seeing and giving yourself to this. To recognize that every mental contraction is a mara. Every idea that this should not be happening is a mara. It's not real. So if you like, one approach is the approach of Advaita. The other approach is the approach of Tantra. They end up in the same place. And sometimes it's useful in yourself to point to yourself, to the empty space within which everything is happening. The empty space of consciousness, the empty space of awareness. And sometimes that's an impediment, because very often that can set up a sense of transcendence, which leads to an avoidance of the full immersion into this reality. The full immersion without drowning in it, without sticking to it. If you like, the tantric approach is to fully immerse yourself in everything, because that has to happen anyway. Out of transcendence, there needs to be a return to the world. And very often that does happen, but it's also a danger that that doesn't happen, because there's a subtle identification with a transcendent state. That's what you know as spiritual bypassing. And it's much more pernicious than it seems. So the other approach, which is to fully immerse yourself in whatever is appearing as your inner experience, to not hold back anything. It's an annihilation. It's like you're going right into the center of your experience. Like I said, it's not the same as just feeling your feelings. Yeah? Feeling your feelings, if it stops there, then there is a mental overlay to that. And the mental overlay is, I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want this, I should be feeling this or I shouldn't be feeling this, I want to feel something else. Yeah? Or I am feeling this, therefore I am this. Yeah? And then the whole confusion that happens when things go your way and there's a sense of flow and ease in your life, then very often we think we finally got it. Now we're being spiritual. But really what's happened is that just life is flowing according to your idea of how it flows. So that's also a common sticking place or confusion. Yeah? So to fully immerse yourself in this experience, to fully give yourself to this experience, is an annihilation of every vestige of wanting it to be any different. It's not a getting stuck in it. It's giving yourself to what is at the core of the feeling without knowing. It's like surrendering to a black hole. You're annihilated in that. And in that annihilation, the possibility is to see that only awareness exists. Whatever the experience, whatever the doorway of the experience, because it doesn't stop at the experience, whatever doorway presents itself as the experience that you're having, when fully surrendered into, offers the possibility of the recognition that awareness is the only thing that exists. And in that recognition, awareness becomes aware of itself, and you are awake.